Yeah, hello and welcome to my 2 days hands-on of a Feelworld FW759 screen you can see here. To be honest, I plan to make this video now for many months, so I'm also a little bit sorry for those guys and girls out there. I promised to make a video about it soon, but time was short and so it got a little bit delayed, sorry for that. But there is also a huge pro with this delay, because I used it now with multiple bodies. I also compared it to many different screens, which I have here, which I borrowed, which I use in work and so on. So I can also tell you how is it working. Is there are there any faults with different signal types, like interlaced signals, like progressive segmented frame signals and so on. Yeah, so but before I talk too much, let's start with this review or hands-on, whatever. This is a 7-inch IPS panel field monitor, so it's kind of a middle way in between 5 inches, 10 inches, and it's, I think, more or less the sweet spot, especially if you want something with a higher resolution, because many of the 5-inch screens are only offering 800 by 480 resolution. And with the 1280 by 800 resolution of this screen, you can natively display 720p. And by the way, it also helps a lot according the internal scaler, because many other screens with low resolution, they have a problem that the internal scaler has issues with the a little bit weird resolutions, let's say it that way. Because, for example, 720p is exactly 1/4 of 1080p, and so you get a very, very clear image. By the way, I also tested this out with an HDMI signal from my computer. It's even possible with a pixel-to-pixel mode, by the way, you need to use a pixel-to-pixel mode to bypass the scaler. And so you get really a pixel-to-pixel representation which you're getting from your computer. So it's also possible to use this, for example, as a second screen in your NLE or so, by the way, if the size is big enough for you. Let's get to the accessories first. There is the screen. Then we also get a small ball head, standard ball head, not something special, I think. There's also a mini to standard HDMI cable included, at least with my unit. There are other packages out there, by the way, with a mini to standard and a micro to standard cable also included. So you can connect it to any type of device, and especially the newer bodies are coming with micro HDMI, not mini HDMI anymore, which I hate, by the way, because it's physically not that stable. You also get a manual, and you get this sunshade here. I think the sunshade is a good compromise, because normally I like such sunshades which are not that stiff, so they are not breaking. And this one is even here padded. I don't know if you can see this. Maybe, yeah, you should see it. There is a textile padding, so you also don't get reflections from this side. As you can see here on the other side, this side is reflecting, this not. The sunshade is not the most robust one, but you can really put this everywhere, and yeah, it's not breaking like hard plastic sunshades or so, for example. Yeah, there's also this package, yeah, and that's it more or less. Let's get to the screen. To be precise, first I thought, is this really a good move to buy this screen, because about 120 bucks are really it's not that much for such a screen, let's say it that way, especially if it's equipped with an IPS panel. And yeah, first I had doubts, but I can tell you it's really good at this price point. The enclosure is out of plastic, so it's also quite lightweight, but it's high quality plastic. There's nothing squeaking. There is no play everywhere. Even the sunshade, which you can also, or which you need to clamp on, by the way, this part here, because it's coming without it. Even there's nothing squeaking. It's really rugged for a plastic body, and it's easily comparable with each other manufacturer out there. So don't think that you're getting something super cheap or so, which is also quality-wise on a very low level. By the way, very important, there is also a second model available, which is called FW759P. And this mod, which is coming, by the way, with histogram, false color, and zebras additionally. So if you need these features, especially the histogram, for example, if your camera isn't outputting a histogram over HDMI, which is the case with many camcorders, consumer camcorders, and which is also the case with nearly all Nikon bodies, for example, if you're filming with Nikon bodies, then get the P model. Yeah, let's continue. By the way, I have the model with the firmware 2.0. There are also newer models out there with firmware 3.2 or so. So there are maybe a few differences. Maybe, for example, a few features are get additional features like adjustable peaking, because here with this model the peaking is fixed. You cannot adjust the strength, color, and so on. For example, also the zebras are maybe adjustable. I don't know. I have this 2.0 model here. Let's continue. I really recommend to mount this sunshade, by the way, and don't use it without it, because it's also protecting the panel a little bit, also while transporting. And yeah, also if you're bumping something with the screen, it's really protecting it, and you can even replace it if you want to, or if it breaks, for example. It's also needed to mount the sunshade, by the way. As you can see, here is Velcro, and you just put this thing on here, and you are okay. Not that perfect, but yeah. Okay, that way it's better, and you're ready to shoot, and that's really easy and fast, and you don't need to fiddle around with thumb screws or anything else. As I mentioned already, the sunshade isn't the most robust one, but it's really doing the work, and it's more than big enough to block out the sun or other light sources. By the way, this screen is also coming with a glossy panel, as you can see here, the R300 F&V light. But with the sunshade, yeah, the sunshade is helping a lot. Just don't think that you can use it outdoors without any problems, because yeah, the reflections are just too extreme, and yeah, not the best screen, let's say that way for outdoor usage. The brightness is okay, but there are way brighter screens out there. By the way, this model is coming with a Sony NP-F battery plate. This model isn't coming with the lock, as you can see here. Normally, the newer models with the new firmware and so on, which you can order now, they have such a locking pin here. Here, the problem was, and this is the older revision, that, for example, if you mount a battery, that, for example, you can see it here, there is still a little bit of play, and sometimes with a few third-party batteries, there is a connection problem. Sometimes, not with all batteries, especially with an NP-F 970. I didn't have any problems till now, only with such small batteries. But this got fixed with the newest generation, and so I only want to mention it. By the way, there is also this HDMI protector included, which I really like, because it's a very simple solution. It's just this piece of metal and this small thumb screw. And for example, here you have the HDMI in. There is no HDMI out, by the way, but it's very easy. For example, and a very simple solution and effective solution. Put the cable here, put this here, and lock it down, and you're ready to go. As you can see, place it in this direction until you hit the plug, and the plug is really going nowhere, really. And this is working really good, and it was one of the easiest and most effective solutions I've ever seen. By the way, you can even unscrew it a little bit, pull it in that way, put it that way, and then you have it in kind of a parking position, and that way you can also use cables for and don't lose it, by the way, and you can use cables which are not compatible because the cable is maybe too thick, or the port is too thick, or whatever. For example, I have such a very thick cable here, which isn't compatible because it's that thick here. And in this position you're not losing it, and you will be happy. And this is one of the features I really like about it. As mentioned, no HDMI out, but yeah, I think for most people the HDMI in is enough. There is also a DC plug, which is working from around 6 volts, because I tested it down to 6.2 or 6 volts or so, and up to 35 volts. I don't know if this is really true, but this is stated in the manual and also online. So at least V-mount, end power and so on should be also no problem. Just be aware this is a 2.1mm plug, not a 2.5mm plug with inner diameter 2.1, not 2.5. So you need an adapter, for example, if you want to use a 2.5mm cable, or just get a D-tap, for example, to 2.1mm cable if you're using a V-mount battery. There's also an audio-video output for analog, no input, sorry, for analog input, but the adapter cable isn't included. Not that of a big deal, I think, because normally today you're not using analog outputs anymore, especially not if a screen is capable of outputting 720p natively. There's also a headphone out, by the way. Internal speaker is also built in. Volume is adjustable, no problems at all. There's also a controller input, which is quite interesting because you can also plug in a controller like with the Must HD screens, but yeah, it isn't available, and it's also not included in packages or as a kit. And I don't know, are they still redesigning it because it looked not that nice because just two buttons with a very basic enclosure. Maybe there's coming something in the future. And there's also a USB upgrade port with an firmware upgrade option in the firmware. Maybe it's possible to get firmware updates from the Feelworld support, but I'm not sure about it. I didn't ask them till now to get, for example, the 3.2 firmware. But there is one port and there is one option in the menu structure to update the firmware. By the way, this model, to also make this clear, is also available from CTAC, I think, ST669 or how it's called. It's really the same model. I'm just not sure if there's also a P model like here, the FW759P, but just check it out there because, yeah, such models are coming and going quite fast. Yeah, then we also get, for example, the buttons at the front, which are quite nice because you get 4 function buttons, F1, F2, F3, F4, the power button, and yeah, the control buttons. By the way, there is no hardware power switch. For me, a little bit of a con because I like hardware switches like on the Lilliput 663, like on the Icon VH7i, which I also plan to review within the next time, by the way, because I got it used quite cheap. But I think it's quite okay because especially if you use this DC plug, you just pull the plug or you remove a battery from the battery holder for a recharge, and then yeah, it's also powered off and it's not that of a problem. By the way, the power drain isn't measurable, so I don't know. I mean, it seems like it's also not in a standby mode. Only this LED is lit up. But if you plan to store the monitor with battery on, I think it's not that of a good idea. Okay, there are no 1/4-inch mounting points, by the way, at this side. It also wouldn't be yeah, useful because of this additional plate here. Yeah, maybe on the plate it would have been an option. There's only this port here, which is working quite nice, I have to say. Just maybe use a thumb screw if you have one, like this one here on the ball head, which is coming with a rubber padding because, come on, whatever. Because with the rubber padding, you're also evening out a little bit this enclosure parts here, and it's also holding a little bit better. So yeah, just a small quick tip. Okay, let's get now to the menu structure, to all the features, and I will power it up with my VG30. By the way, I also want to mention it already here before I get to the menu structure, to my calibration settings and to the features. This screen is compatible to 1080i signals without any issues, no moray, no aliasing patterns, no problem with PSF signals like from the GH4, like it's coming from the GH4, which is even, yeah, messing around a little bit with the interlaced signal, by the way. No problem at all. It's also working fine with 24p, 25p, 30p, 50p, 60p, 60i, 50i, all signals types I threw at this, yeah, worked fine. And the image was really, really nice and clear. Yeah, okay, let's get to the second part. Okay, so let's start with the second part, the for sure way more important part for a monitor review, according the menu structure, the features, and which feature, for example, isn't not really useful in my opinion. By the way, to show you this, I'm using the version 2 firmware, as you can see here. Here you also get the USB upgrade option, by the way. And yeah, so this is a point I wanted to mention. Maybe buy it new, because then you have a way higher chance to get the newest edition, and maybe also buy it directly from Feelworld. For example, I got mine from AliExpress directly from Feelworld. And yeah, then I think you should get the newest edition. Otherwise, just ask the dealer. Maybe they can tell you which version is installed, or they can maybe try it out. To get to the menu, just press the menu button. By the way, we are using now a Sony VG30 with a 60p output, progressively output. As mentioned already, it's working with all signal types, really all signal types I ever threw at this device. Even PSF signals, even interlace signals, no problems at all. Also no moray and so on. First, I want to show you again my calibration settings. There are already a few settings here. The user setting, which is modified now by me, dynamic, standard, mild, and we are at user again. The standard is okay, I think, but normally I like to adjust everything by myself. Brightness at 50 is okay, a little bit washed out blacks, but you're getting the most details in the blacks, so you're not missing anything. The contrast I lowered, and saturation I also lowered a little bit, because it was a little bit oversaturated for my taste. You can let it at 50 if you want to. Sharpness is important. Let it at 10 max. Don't go over 10, because otherwise you're getting double edges. With 10, you're also capable of using the screen, for example, for focus pulling easier, even without peaking. I'm not that of a fan of peaking at all, by the way, because it's only helping if you're shooting a still image, and as soon as you move the camera, the image gets blurry and the peaking isn't helping anymore. So also don't think that peaking is helping you while shooting on a shoulder rig or so that much. At least not with a screen. With the internal peaking, they can use, the manufacturers can use other readout times or readout speeds from the sensor directly, and the peaking performance is normally better. So if you have good peaking body internally, use the body internal peaking. It's always better, or it should be always better. Red at 128, it's standard. Green I lowered a little bit. Blue I hired or added 2 points from 128 to 130, and green from 128 down to 126. And the tint I let at, or is still at 50. As you can see, I didn't change that much, only the sharpness I dialed in from 0 to 10, and saturation contrast a little bit. I changed it a little bit. So I can tell you it's really, really good from scratch on. You don't even need really to readjust it. Maybe just this, maybe the saturation, because it's really highly saturated. There could be also differences, by the way, with the new firmwares, because normally changes are made in such picture profiles. There are normally a few changes in the features, according adjustable peaking or so, which is not possible in this state with the version 2 firmware. So yeah, really check out the newest edition, because maybe you're missing something which is now included. Aspect ratio, we have 16:9. We have a zoom 1 mode, which is helping, for example, if you have a camera with a 4:3 image, which is centered. Zoom 2, there are two different zoom modes, as you can see. Just scan, okay. Don't ask me what just scan should be. Okay, it's kind of a pixel-to-pixel mode, or a full screen just scan mode. Panorama mode, okay, there is an error here, maybe also that got fixed now. And we have our auto for auto recognition. It's even cropping the 720p image right, as you can see here, because yeah, this is the full stretched image. This is the right 720p height image. Then we have 4:3 and 16:9 again. Normally I let it at 16:9, because normally each camera is outputting natively 16:9. By the way, you can also adjust which color it should show if there is no signal. I normally let it at black, but there is also the blue as standard, for example. Also helps, by the way, to see which screen you use. If you have multiple screens, for example, you know, for example, the blue one is my main screen, the green one is adjusted for another camera. For example, if you're using a log profiler, so with higher contrast and saturation settings, which is also quite nice. OSD time, yeah, I have it still at okay, no, not time, it's transparency. Low transparency, middle, high. I normally set it to off or low. Let's set it to off. You can also reposition the menu, this box here, if you want to. Camera mode is for the 5D normally, not necessary here. And then zoom all, I think you can zoom the menu, and you have also the OSD time. Yeah, nothing important. Such settings I normally don't change, and so yeah, not that important. Now let's get to the features. The fourth, by the way, the fourth menu is then for the function buttons, where you can assign these features. And here we have center marker for the crosshair in the middle, which is nice, and which is also helping to frame most of the time. Oh, damn it. And then we have the save frames, which is giving you, for example, this, let's put it to 245 to 1, for example. Then you get this framing guides, so you can crop it later, for example, if you want to. There are also other frame guide options, as you can see here, 80, 85, 90. So you have a safety, for example, if you like to have this. And if your camera isn't outputting it, by the way, because many cameras are offering such, damn it, such features. Okay, then we have image freeze, so you can also show, for example, the client the image, or if you want to save the image if you're building up something, and so you can put everything again in the same place. The image flip is also nice because and helping, because you can flip complete image. You can flip it horizontally and vertically separately, as you can see here, horizontal, vertical, only horizontal, vertical, and normal again. It's helping, for example, because you only have, or there's only 1/4 inch mounting point, and so you need to mount it vice versa if you want to mount it from top, for example, with a magic arm. Check field is red, green, blue. Blue one you need, for example, for the calibration, or to check the, you can also use it to check the noise of the image, for example. You can also set it to mono, but normally you don't need this. Picture to picture or pixel to pixel angle, not picture to picture. It's helping to pull the focus more precise. I like this, for example, if you have an internal screen for framing and you use, for example, the external screen with pixel to pixel to pull the focus, or so it's easier to pull the focus even without peaking. And as mentioned again, peaking I don't like that much. By the way, this is also over sharpening the image a little bit, but it's also showing too much in focus, and I'm not refocusing now because I would need, or it would be necessary to make a new scene for this, so I can show it to you. It's too strong a little bit, so I don't know, maybe they fixed it with a new firmware. The P model, by the way, also has an additional feature, which is I think the standard image only with peaking, and you also get this, which is a monochrome image with over sharpening and peaking additionally. So the P model is also better here, and so yeah, I think if I would buy it new, I would buy the P model because it's really nice to have such features. So more or less, by the way, here you can also assign the function buttons F1, F2, F3, F4. For example, I have the focus assist. I think this is still the standard. Image freeze, pixel to pixel, and the center marker. Normally I only use image freeze and pixel to pixel with nearly every screen. Okay, I mean, to summarize this up, I have to say that the screen is really good at its price point. It's rugged, it has very nice features, although the peaking is a little bit too strong for my taste, but it's working maybe from, if you just need to pull from point A to point B and you need some, or you want to be sure. But I highly recommend put the sharpness to 10, use pixel to pixel crop mode, and you will be happy, I think, also without peaking. with every screen, not only with this one. By the way, the framing guides, which you can see here, are coming from the camera and not the screen, by the way. As mentioned already, this is also only a cable which is going through the image outside my flat. Yeah, what's also important, and I mention it again, buy it new because you get the newest firmware. And the only cons I found are the battery mount, which is now fixed, the peaking, which is not really necessary, and the not that perfect sunshade maybe, which is not that rugged compared to other sunshades, but it's working nice. So do I recommend it? Definitely. If you really want a super cheap screen, it's 10 times better than a Viltrox DC70. It's better than the older Lilliput screens like the 665 OP, the 5D2 OP. It has a clearer image than the 663 OP2 and is even comparable and nearly better than the Icon VH7i image according the clearness and the standard calibration, by the way. Although the Icon is also quite nice there, I have to say. Let's say they are quite on the same level, more or less. And especially if you search for a screen which is also offering histogram, for example, the FW759P, if you're using a consumer camcorder, super choice, super cheap, and you can also use it more professionally because the calibration is from scratch on really good, and you can also judge the image with this screen because it's not adding aliasing or more ray patterns with interlaced signals, for example, with older cameras. Okay, that's it more or less. I think I showed you everything, I told you everything, as always, quite long, sorry for that. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. I always try to answer all questions, public and private questions. There are also other videos planned, though I don't want to promise anything because time is always short. The Icon VH7i video should also come soon, within the next weeks at least. So stay tuned. Yeah, that's it more or less. Thanks for watching. Bye.